It's the end of the line for Scooby-Doo. Welcome to the Complete Story Series, where I take trade paperbacks and single issues and I break them down into digestible bites so that I can give you a Scooby snack and then read it dramatically back to you. All alterations to the panel, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Our story begins at the Blazing Man Festival in the Nevada desert with journalist Daphne Blake and her cameraman Fred Jones, following up on a big lead from a mysterious informant. Though she was once a top-rated journalist, she has since fallen from grace and now hosts Daphne Blake's Mysterious Mysteries on the Knitting Channel. However, as the two of them leave, a man and a dog in the crowd watch them, knowing exactly who they are. Except the dog, Scooby, doesn't really care to listen to what the man is saying. The man tells Scooby that it's already been a big risk for him to take him out of the complex, but fine, he'll put on the Emoto goggles. The dog begins to smile as the man puts the goggles on, and after setting up the receivers in his contact lenses, he can see Scooby's emoticon telling him that he clearly wants to get some pizza. But down below in the complex, Dr. Velma Dinkley is told by security that hipster doofus took one of their subjects outside. Again. Velma tells them not to worry about it for now. If the two of them make a scene, go get them. Things could be much worse, but for now, she's going to return to her quarters and is not to be disturbed. A short while later, Daphne and Fred sit waiting for their contact to arrive, and that's when behind Fred, a rock begins to lift up with a person crawling out of it. He throws his camera at her, shouting, "Mole people!" But as the camera knocks the woman out, he realizes that may have been their contact. He tries to wake her up, but Daphne yells at him, asking if he really thinks that's going to work, and that's when the two of them begin to argue as the woman wakes up, stating, "You two really suck at hellos." Daphne and Fred help Velma up, and as they do, they begin to hear a growling, and then they look back up to see Scooby standing on a rock snarling. Velma tells them that it must be from the goggles reacting to the receivers in her glasses, telling Scooby that they're a threat. She tries to tell Scooby to heal, but then the man from before runs up asking, "What did you think you were doing running off like that? Is that Dr. Dinkley?" The man then asks what she's doing outside of the complex because she never leaves it. And why is she with that hot babe from Mysterious Mysteries? Daphne takes offense to that, but she decides she'll give him an autograph anyway, and Velma tells everyone to be quiet. They have to go into the complex in a hurry so she can explain what's going on. She explains that this facility is privately funded by a group of 4 concerned scientists regarding the ultimate survival of the human race. And right now, they need to hurry and get to a safe zone. The man says that there is no such place in the complex, but Velma tells him that he's nothing more than a dog trainer. There's a lot of things that he doesn't know. So the man says, "Call me Shaggy, all my buddies do." And she tells him that according to her records, his name is Norval Rogers, and she is certainly not his buddy. She hands Daphne a clipboard with all 4 of the original scientists' research, stating that none of their work has ever even been entered into a computer. After reading it, Daphne tells her this can't be authentic, and Velma confirms that it is. Nanite technology that can be dispersed across the world. This in particular will root into human hosts and transform them. The intention is to essentially infect humanity with a techno-virus. Shaggy steps in there stating, "Hang on, I've been working here for 3 years and I've never heard about any of this. This complex develops enhanced technology for Uncle Sam, like the headgear that Scooby is wearing. He's a smart dog prototype." And Velma stops him stating, "What did I just say? You're just a dog trainer. You don't know anything." As they continue to go deeper into the complex, Velma welcomes everyone to the safe zone. The room was created so that the Nanites could complete their work, but the creators would have a safe room to hide in. However, things have changed. The original intent of the project was to weed out man's baser instincts, greed, anger, but now, Daphne stops Velma stating, "You would know, wouldn't you? Because according to these notes, you were a part of the team that infected the world. You've released a virus that is self-replicating and is spreading across the globe." Velma tries to defend herself though. The project was meant to save the world, but once we learned that the 4 had changed it, making it so that it infected people so that they would become docile so they could be controlled, I decided I had to expose them, which is why I contacted you. Thankfully though, the program can only be activated once all 4 of the scientists are here to enter in their passwords. And that's when the safe room doors shut and a siren goes off. Velma shouts out that this can't be happening. The Nanites, they've been activated, but the 4 scientists aren't here. She then runs out stating that it could possibly be a glitch, and she's going to run a global scan to see if they've been activated. If the Nanites haven't been yet, there may be a way to shut them, but that's when the lights go out. She says it looks like the power to the complex has gone out, and right now, they don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. After a bit, the emergency generators kick on and the power is restored, and the group decides that they should go out and take a look to make sure that everything is fine. But as they walk through the complex, Velma sees one of her co-workers, Eric Kramer. She tells everyone to relax. She's gonna go talk to him and see what's going on, but as she gets closer, he turns around and he's a mutated creature trying to bite her. Velma screams, "Jinkies!" and she begins to run away. But before Dr. Kramer can give chase, Scooby jumps on him, knocking him down. Everyone begins to run away, but as they leave, a second creature appears, and instead of following, the 2 creatures begin to fight each other. Velma tells everyone that she needs to understand what's going on. Clearly, something has changed them, So right now, they're gonna have to head into the security office. As Velma loads up the security cameras, everybody sees what's going on. The complex is now filled with those things, and it's time for them to get out of there. Thankfully, the complex is stocked up with weapons that they can use to help them get out of the main doors. The gang loads up on guns and they begin to creep out of the room. And Shaggy tells everyone, "Just for the record, I have never fired a gun before." As they turn a corner, a hand reaches out calling for help. And that's when Shaggy asks if it's Becky? The transformed woman leaps out, pushing Fred away, and then jumps on top of Shaggy, telling him, yes it is, and I've never felt better." Velma quickly swings the butt of the rifle, hitting Becky, but Becky also swings back, knocking Velma into a wall. Scooby jumps back into attack again, but Becky catches him and gets ready to bite, and that's when Daphne grabs the gun and opens fire on Becky's neck. Becky's neck explodes, and Shaggy says that was Becky Davis from Animal Control, and you just killed her. Fred says she did what she had to, but Daphne grabs Fred, stating, "I just killed a human being." She turns and punches Velma, stating, "This is all your fault. You helped those 4 lunatics." But before Daphne can continue yelling, Shaggy tells everyone that he found a way through the vent shaft. Fred asks if it's safe, and that's when another creature appears, so he tells everyone, we should probably just go. He starts shooting the monster, and everyone begins crawling through the vent, stating that there should be at least one vehicle they can use. Dr. Krebs' ongoing experiment. As the group calls out, they stand in front of a giant armored vehicle, and Shaggy tells them, this is it. Not sure why he called it the mystery machine though. Daphne asks if this is really gonna get them out of this building, but that's when they hear talking coming from above them, telling them, no more think. And they look up to see more monsters sitting there, telling them, there is only dying now. The monsters start jumping down, and everyone begins blasting their way through, trying to get to the truck. But as Daphne is firing, she keeps telling herself, these are not people, these are not people. And then she runs out of ammo. As she begins to cry, Shaggy grabs her and she tells him to just let her go. Dying here will be the best. And then he tosses her in the cab of the truck. Everyone piles in and Shaggy jumps into the driver's seat, and then he tries to start the truck up. But the monsters continue clawing their way in. Scooby bites one, but a second one starts reaching in, and Fred grabs a gun, except the gun is out of ammo. A monster then jumps on him and starts to scrape his nails across Fred's face, and Velma jumps up, slamming a first aid kit into its head. Daphne kicks the monster out as Shaggy finally manages to get the truck started and begins plowing through the swarm. And as he drives, Velma tells him to slow down. There's a heavily fortified gate ahead, but Shaggy tells her, nope, and he steps on the gas. Outside of the complex, the Mystery Machine bursts from the garage, and it stops just before tipping over the guardrail. Once the truck is at a complete stop, Scooby says, ruh-oh, and the group looks out to see the people from the Blazing Man Festival, but they have now all turned into monsters. While the monsters are currently busy attacking each other, the group decides that this might be a good time to leave. And a short while later, the gang stops by a gas station to find it completely empty. So what better time to pick up a few snacks? Except the store isn't completely empty, as a vampire opens the door from the back room. So after everyone finally gets some food in their stomachs, they decide to take turns making sure that no other monsters are coming their way. Velma begins to wake up to let Daphne get some sleep, and as she calls out to her, Daphne comes out of the truck stating it seems Shaggy's friend was also making weapons. Also, Scooby's been keeping watch while she's been digging through the van. Velma looks over, stating that that's kind of peculiar. Scooby was actually the most docile of the smart dog prototypes, but since this, he's started to become rather brave. From what Daphne found, Velma decides that maybe she should make an inventory of Dr. Krebs' weapons. But as Daphne sits back down, the vampire crawls on the rooftops looking down. He then calls out for more monsters to come, and his arms begin to crawl their way out from the underground. As the vampire begins to make his way down, Scooby's already there growling. Daphne hears the growls and rushes over to make sure that Scooby is fine, and when she turns the corner, Scooby is already taking care of the vampire. So Daphne tells him to move away, she's got this, and she pulls the trigger on her gun. A giant energy blast shoots out of the rifle, blowing the vampire's upper half away. And then as the two of them look at the dead vampire, they begin to hear thumping coming from the van. They all run over to see Velma falling out on her back holding a controller, and a monster steps out stating, you will never stop us! We are the new masters of the... And then a small drone flies past his head. The monster looks at it, and then it fires a laser cutting through his head, and he falls out of the van. Scooby says once again, ruh-oh, and Daphne asks, what? And he says, ruh-oh that! Everyone looks over to see the vampire is beginning to regrow his body parts, and everyone decides that it might be a good time to leave. They all hop back into the Mystery Machine and they drive off to the next location, Mall-Mart. After a bit of salvaging, Shaggy tells him that it's kind of a mess in there, but there is food, electronics, medical supplies, and everything else that they could possibly need. Velma tells everyone that that's good, then they should have a laptop that she could use to connect to one of the complex's other facilities. But as Daphne walks with Velma, they find a dead body on the ground, and once Velma inspects it, she pulls something off of it. She shows into Daphne, stating that it seems like they may not have been the only ones not infected. Outside, Shaggy and Fred begin loading up the mystery machine with the supplies, and they decide that they shouldn't worry. Things are about to get a lot better. But behind them, a monster swarm begins to gather. While Velma begins working on her laptop, her and Daphne hear loud crashing noises coming out of the front of the store. Daphne runs over and finds Fred firing one of Dr. Krebs' energy cannons into the group of monsters, while Shaggy jumps away screaming, "Zoinks!" Daphne starts shooting to give the two cover, and everyone runs to the back of the store. And as they run through the halls, Velma tells everyone to get in here, and Shaggy says, "Oh right, I almost forgot about her." To which she tells him, "Oh, that's very heartwarming." Everyone runs into the stockroom and slams the door shut while the monsters begin beating on the door, and Fred quickly runs over grabbing 70 pounds of Happy Oats to keep the door blocked. But Shaggy mentions, "You know, this might not be the only door back here." Fred realizes that he's right. Normally, there's a loading dock with access to the outside, so him and Scooby will need to go check it out while everyone else keeps watch. Shortly after Fred leaves, though, Velma tells everyone to be quiet and listen. The monsters have stopped trying to get in. It might be possible that unlike the vampires that they fought, that these ones may not have any intelligence, and they're just reacting to instincts. They might move on and try to find food elsewhere. Elsewhere in the stockroom, Fred and Scooby begin checking through the loading docks, and Scooby begins sniffing, stating, "Rotwaron!" Fred turns and sees a little girl asking if he's one of the things that came from under her bed, because she tells him that the monsters under her bed, they're real, and the Daphne appears asking if everything's okay. Fred tells her, "Yeah, just this little girl. We have to protect her before," and then the little girl's head splits open and 3 giant plant-like mouths fly out grabbing Fred. The monsters outside the doors hear the gunshots and begin storming back into the doors, and Velma and Shaggy begin climbing the shelves. Back with the others, Daphne begins to pick up Fred after Scooby finished biting the last piece of the monster girl up, and they all begin to climb the shelves. The monsters continue to break in, and everyone remains silent as they sit on top of the shelves. Through their searching, they found nothing, and the monsters begin to attack each other. Hours start to pass, and once the last of the monsters leave, the gang decides to climb back down. Velma runs over to the door to look out the window, and Scooby pokes her with his nose, asking if everything's okay. She stomps her foot, stating, "No! You just scared me half to death, actually 3/4 to death." Once the last of the doors have been secured, Velma tells everyone that they need to hurry and try to log on to the complex's servers. If she can reach them, they might be able to get assistance. But Daphne stops her, stating that they're the ones who caused all of this, and that's if any of them are alive to even help us. Velma says that they won't know unless they make an attempt, but she may have dropped the laptop while they were escaping. Daphne storms off, telling herself, "Velma is the cause for all of this. I have a right to be mad, but maybe I'm being a little harsh." She was trying to expose her bosses, which is a good thing, but maybe she just needs an outlet for her fear and anger and is taking it out on Velma. Or maybe her suspicions of her not telling her everything is true. Elsewhere, Shaggy and Velma search for another laptop, and Shaggy mentions that he thinks that he may have an idea of how the project was supposed to work. The goal was to pacify the population and breed out the instincts for violence, right? Maybe their way to get everyone to mellow out was to keep them separated. If the Nanites bred out social instincts, it would shy people away from being in groups. Because there's power in groups, people start to get ideas. And that's when suddenly a laptop box flies through the air, hitting Velma, and Daphne shouts, "I found a laptop!" As she walks over, Shaggy says in a weird way that was actually nice of her. Maybe she's starting to warm up. And that concludes the first arc to Scooby-Doo Apocalypse, a book I never thought I would ever see or read, or it's just crazy, and it's enjoyable, and I like it, and I hope you guys do too. Don't forget to check out the book by picking it up yourself. Don't forget to support the book by buying it yourself, because this is the kind of book that if people don't buy, they're probably just gonna end it after issue 10 or 12. So make sure you go pick it up. I'm Benny for Comicstorian. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Comicstorian, and I'll see you next time right here.